Dude. Craft Brews and Casual Conversations joined with us again, the guest that keeps on guesting. His name is Goff. He's from Australia. He's a filmmaker, and he's here.
Yes, all of that is accurate. Thank you so much, Drew, for having me back on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. We always love having you on, and you're back. We're here to talk about your latest film, The Education System, available on your through Beernuts Productions. So The Education System, I watched it this afternoon, Goff. I enjoyed it. It was funny, and I noticed some different things, different takes on how you approach filmmaking, maybe, and I could be wrong on those things, but we'll discuss it. But first, let's talk about the education system. What's it about? What can people expect to see from it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's another mockumentary, because I do like my mockumentary. So I've done another one, bit of a different style, as you alluded to. But yeah, so essentially, there's a bunch of examples of how the education system may not, or may be, or may not be useful for the youth of today. And then there's some interviews. I conducted interviews with a fake education politician, a union leader, parents, and of course an employer of different people. So I sort of did a wide ranging piece. So yeah, it goes for about 27 minutes, and hopefully it's humorous and will tickle people's funny bones.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it definitely had a lot of relatable moments. As I'm a teacher now, in my first year of teaching, and I kind of viewed it in a different lens from it, because it's always like I'm always hearing, when am I going to use this in real life? And then especially like the math example, when they ask for directions and he's giving these examples, I was like, yeah, that's very relatable, very funny.
Well, it's funny you should mention that, Drew, because I've got a very good friend of mine who attends my gym, and she's in Australia we call it PE, physical education. You guys call it gym.
Mm-hmm.
So she's a teacher. She does elementary school, and she's very fierce in regards to when people mock her profession. She doesn't take too kindly to it. So she hasn't watched this particular film yet. I don't think the teaching fraternity would be. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, of course. But those who are a little bit serious and don't have a sense of humour, they may not enjoy the little bit of a dig that I have at them. But I'd like to think, as always, I spread the mockery
right
all over, and everybody cops their fair whack. But yeah, my mate Katie, it's fair to say I haven't told her to rush out and download a copy.
I mean, it's what better way to approach like your life and your career than to be able to laugh at it? Like there's of course frustrations in all fields and everything, but I feel like if you can't joke about it, then you're just not you just go away, I guess.
Well, yeah, no, I tend to agree with you, Drew. Life can be tough enough as it is without adding to the stress of it all. So I say have a sense of humour and have a bit of a laugh about things. Plus, I mean, like you say, being a teacher yourself, I'm sure you've seen a few of these people, like the union leader and the education minister, and some of the examples and so forth. I'm sure you've come across them and you've shaken your head, and finally somebody's made fun of them on your behalf.
Yeah, I appreciate that, especially like even like the stuff with like the parents. And sometimes I feel like I was like, yeah, that's kind of the perspective that teachers might have of parents every once in a while. So I thought you really nailed it. You made it relatable. It was good. A thing that I noticed too about it. Have you done voiceovers before?
Yeah, a couple of times. So How to Land That Dream Job.
That's right.
Did all the voiceovers for that one because that was a bit of a different style mockumentary. And there was another one too where I jumped in the voiceover. It was Small Mercies, which was an actual film situation, which was about the first or second one I ever did. And the actress did most of it with voiceover because that was a bit of a different sort of a style as well. That one wasn't a mockumentary. That was an actual sort of a comedy drama kind of a situation. And she sort of voiced her role predominantly with voiceover, which was a bit of an interesting way to do it. But so this one has a lot of different voiceovers involved. Got them in the studio, and pumped them out, and so a little bit different again.
Gotcha. Yeah. And this one had like, the various different voices. It wasn't always the same one, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
I made a very conscious effort because I hate. It's just my own personal thing, and I think I'm the minority, not the majority, on this. But it annoys me when you watch a film and you see the same actor playing two different roles. Like Mike Myers does it a lot, and he's
Mm-hmm.
very good, and I love Mike Myers. But Austin Powers and Doctor Evil, that's fine. But when he started doing other roles in the film as well, I'm like, buddy, man, let somebody else have a turn. So and I know as much as I love Monty Python, they used to do that all the time. And it just irritates me when you have the same person play like 5 or 6 roles. So this time, like with this film, I made a very conscious effort that everybody had to have an individual role and there would be no repeats, which caused me problems because, the day before we recorded the voiceovers, I had 2 go down with COVID, so they had to be replaced. And the day before filming, one of the actors went down with COVID, and so they had to be replaced. And it's not like I could call up one of the other actors and say, I need you. I had to find somebody completely new and fresh. So, there were those little problems. But, so it was important that I had all different voices for the voiceovers and all different actors for all the sketches and all the interviews and all that sort of stuff. So, all up, there's a cast of 52, I believe, which is a big cast. But they all did great, so I was very pleased.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to mention. I was like, at the end credits, I was like, wow, there's quite a bit of people involved in this. Where, you definitely had to have the bigger cast and more roles with it. And I liked it too with the voiceovers because it's like, oh, this is this person's teacher in their head, so they all didn't have the same teacher. They all have different voices resonating in their heads, kind of like how we all do. We all have different memories of, teachers of high school of all different levels. So, it kind of makes it even more believable in a sense that these people are actually having these thoughts.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And anyway, in everybody's experience, the math teacher is going to sound very different to the gym teacher, who's going to sound very different to the food tech teacher. So you need the different voices, and it was just a matter of finding the right actors for that sort of fitted each sort of stereotype, because I like dealing in my stereotypes, and it was just about finding the actors that dealt with each stereotype nicely and could pump out the voiceovers, and then obviously, like you say, lining them up with each sketch.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you were growing up, when you were a young lad, how were you in school? What are your memories like?
So we do it a little bit different. So we don't have the middle school like you guys do. So we have our elementary school is years 1 through 7, and then our high school is 8 through 12. So my primary school or elementary school experience was fantastic. Teachers were great. Students were great. It was very inclusive because obviously with my eyesight being blind and all, an inclusive environment is obviously something that's very important to me. And it was absolutely fantastic. It was like 10 out of 10. The high school, on the other hand, was the worst of the worst. It was a shit high school with awful teachers, awful students. It was just the worst. But I like to try and get positives out of things, and it did teach me a lot of life lessons because, I was seeing drug deals happen when I was like 14 at school, and people were doing all kinds of things on the basketball court, which, probably wasn't legal. And there was people having sex in the corner and all sorts of crazy behavior. So, and the teachers were bullies. It was a horrible experience that wasn't at all inclusive at all. A lot of segregation at my high school. So, it was a very unpleasant experience. So I've had the very best of the best and the very worst of the worst. So I suppose when I was coming up with an idea for the next film, and I'm like, what do I want to make fun of? Obviously, my high school experience not being so pleasant, I was like, well, let's make fun of the education system because it's pretty easy to do when I think back. So that's why I went with the education system as my thing to mock.
That's too bad that you had that experience. So when I don't know how they do it in Australia, but did you have something called an IEP at all, or a plan because of your eyesight?
So I'm not 1,000% sure what you're referring to, but I can tell you that at elementary school, like I say, all the kids with disabilities were fully integrated with all the classes.
Yeah.
We would occasionally have maybe a teacher's aide come and assist us with something, or if there was something in particular we needed help with, we could get help with that. Otherwise, we were fully 100% integrated. Now, with the high school, they wanted us in a little building in the corner. And obviously, I kicked up a bit of a fuss because I've always been reasonably loud. And I said that wasn't good enough coming from the environment that I had. This little 13-year-old kid's like, this sucks. This isn't right. And teachers didn't really like that very much. But then when I was integrated, obviously, the kids weren't used to having a child with a disability in their class. So there was a lot of bullying, and the teachers would, I would say they by not stopping it, seeing it, not stopping it, I would say they're as bad as the perpetrators. So I would say that the teachers were as big a bullies. I wasn't. I'll give you a couple of little examples. For example, I wasn't allowed to sit exams. So my final exams that give you your graduation, they wouldn't allow me to sit them because of my disability. They wouldn't provide me with audio books.
Wow.
So I obviously I failed the reading curriculum with English because they wouldn't give me audio books.
Right.
They're like, well, read this. I'm like, well, can't really because can't see. Well, then you fail. So sucks to be you. So they wouldn't allow me to participate in gym or physical education, which I love exercise, man. I like as an adult now, I go to the gym like every morning. It's my jam. It's my thing. So I love exercise. So it's not like I was a big fat slob who didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I was keen to do it, but yep, they wouldn't let me participate in any sort of gym. So yeah, just little things, well, not little things, big things like that all snowball. So yeah, the high school experience was not a pleasant one. So like I say, when I was thinking about things to mock and make fun of, the education system seemed like a reasonably obvious choice to me. But like I say, I have experienced the best because how they did it at my elementary school was perfect. That would be the framework and the model that I would recommend for any school to follow. They teachers were all trained up. They were all fantastic. Like I say, the students were really cool. So it's one of those things when you've had the best of the best and the worst of the worst. So I've experienced both parts of it, which I guess is a good thing as well. So I know what is good and what is bad and what can be done and what can't be done. You know what I mean? So
yeah, you say all these things that happened to you in your high school experience, and in my profession, that's incredibly illegal at least in the United States. I would imagine in Australia as well. But yeah, we I'm as I'm a special ed teacher, so I'm in the general education classrooms supporting math classes. So I teach algebra 1 and geometry. And then I'm in one class where I'm the only teacher, but it's all kids who are considered receiving special education services. But outside of that, they're all integrated with in the classrooms. They're all in a general education phy ed class. So yeah, that's kind of what you were aiming at, or what you got in your elementary school is what we do, or at least what we do at our school, which legally is required. So.
Well, yes, you're quite right. How the high school were behaving is very illegal, and my parents and other people should have maybe brought that to people's attention so that the people that were doing this bad behavior would have been stopped. But alas, that did not happen. But like I say, you've got to try and take the positives out of these things. And it was kind of like I said, it was like I learned street smarts. I learned when to speak up and when to keep my head down and all of that sort of stuff, which I think is important as young adults. They need to be street smart as well as book smart if they want to get by in this world, because this world can be a pretty cruel place at times.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to the film, you did a really good job at, I think, nailing some of those issues and those things that you have. So it's good to have that background on there, which is interesting. And it sucks. I wish you would have had a better experience, because that's that's shitty. But like you say, you kind of got to take the positives out of it and see how you adapt. You're like a phoenix coming from the fire or the ashes. So
Well, and like I say, it probably with this particular, like when I was writing this script, it sort of fueled my motivation because I was like, well, I'm going to stick it right up these pricks and I'm going to
Hmm.
really have some fun at making fun of the stupid things they say and do. And like, not just with the little sketch examples, which I thought were reasonably accurate, but
Yeah.
also the interviews that I did with, like I say, the union leader and the education minister. I mean, they're all in it for themselves. No one's actually in it to help the children. So, that was, even the parents, like you say, they're the most obnoxious, but there are parents like that out there, man. I've got
Oh
no
yeah, for
doubt
sure.
that there's been a parent-teacher conference interview situation and the teachers just walked away scratching their head going, are you for real? Like, are you people like, you're serious, aren't you? This is crazy that you are serious right now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's I've got no doubt that it happens.
I did like what you did with the sketches and the interviews too. Like you had, you have these they're shorter sketches, which I imagine probably took a little bit longer to film, and then you have to obviously edit, condense down, and all that. But then you went back to your your notorious mockumentary style, where you have those interviews with the people too, and it's all relatable content. But I kind of liked how you had those transitions like that. It was I thought it really worked well together.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I wanted, like I said, I like to make things a little bit different, and I've not done. I mean, book club was predominantly sketch comedy, but I haven't done like a mockumentary where I put sort of sketches in there. So, and I like doing sketches because they're fun. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it was. And once I started writing it, I was like, because I had about three or four. It was like I think English, maths, and gym were like the first three that I wrote, and then I was like, oh well, I've got to think now of as many subjects that you do in high school and put examples now of them because I just can't have two or three. I've got to have as many as I can. So
Right.
there was a couple that I struggled a little bit to come up with examples, but yeah, we got I think there was 13 in the end. So 13 different subjects that you would have at high school.
Yeah, I thought you did a really good job at keep expanding on the electives and the other extracurriculars that you can do in high school, and not just focusing on the core stuff. So yeah, you really did a good job of branching out and everything like that. So a little off topic. As a filmmaker and as a writer, as a director, as all these things, did you watch the Oscars?
Well, we were actually filming the day
Oh,
that
you
the
were.
Oscars were on. We were out filming, and so no, I didn't. But obviously,
Didn't see the
I saw
slap.
what happened. Are you alluding to Will Smith and Chris Rock?
Yeah. I was gonna see how can we get a Beer Nuts production film on there, and how can we slap Chris Rock or slap Will Smith?
well, I mean, I think Beernuts Productions film should absolutely be nominated for best short film.
Yeah.
I think I should sweep the pool. I mean, I did three films last year, so that means they have what, four? Is it four or five nominees? So out of the four or five nominees, three of them should have been Beernuts Productions
That's
for
right.
best short.
That's right. And now Will Smith,
So I
he's
was wrong.
banned. Will Smith got banned for 10 years apparently from the Academy. He can't be a part of it for 10
Oh,
years.
really?
So yeah, we lost his vote. But I think there's other
Oh
people
well.
we can sway. I think there's some
Uh,
people we could get on there.
Well, can I tell you a funny story? I watched a documentary because I like Guns N' Roses. I don't know if you liked
Yeah.
Guns N' Roses when you were a young fella, Drew,
Sure. Yeah, they're fine.
but I dug them, man. They were my favorite band when I was growing up, right? And
Hmm.
so I saw a documentary on them. And this is what I'm alluding to is maybe I need to do something like what their the promotional department at their record company did. So when their first album, Appetite for Destruction, came out, they sent, because obviously this is back in 1987, so things were a lot different back then. There was no social media or internet really back then. So what they would do is they would send out the album to every radio station in America and hope that the guy in charge, the music director of that radio station, would listen to it, go, yeah, that's cool, and play the songs.
Hmm.
So after a couple of weeks, nobody was playing any of the songs. So what he did was, this is apparently this is absolutely true because this is the guy at the record label who told this story. So he has no reason to lie. But so he said, what I decided to do was I would instead put I forget how much it was, like a gram of Coke or something like that inside the album cover and hand deliver it with a call girl. So she would hand deliver the album to each program director around the nation. And he said it cost a lot of money, but within a few hours, the album was one of the most played albums on American radio. So maybe my point being is maybe I need to go to each member of the academy with a couple of good-looking ladies and a few beverages or whatever it might be, and say, hey,
they still do coke, I'm sure.
Yeah, Beernuts Productions needs a nomination or two.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you'll be up there with all those Hollywood elites that are so desirable, I guess.
Well, and what I'll do is, because you're a nice guy and you've had me on the podcast so many times, you could be my plus one,
yes.
And I'll make sure that they sit us next to Anne Hathaway, so it's like a win-win.
It is a win-win. I just watched a clip of Anne Hathaway singing on the Kelly Clarkson show. Not a show that I would normally watch, but Anne Hathaway was on.
What was she singing? I didn't realize. Anne Hathaway got a pop album coming out, has she?
Yeah, no, she's an okay singer. She was in Les Mis for a moment.
Yeah, she was. She absolutely was. Yeah.
But she, I don't know. She was singing a Kelly Clarkson song. There was some competition or whatever, some game they were playing. I just saw a 40-second clip, and that was the extent of it. But I was like, oh, that's my girl Anne Hathaway, so I got to watch this.
That's my girl Anne Hathaway.
Luckily, my wife's sleeping. She can't hear this conversation.
Oh, that's very humorous. I'm sure Anne Hathaway is thrilled to know that she's your girl. She'll be absolutely ecstatic when she finds out.
I think she would. Dudes with Brews on a porch, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm with one of the dudes. I'm his." Yeah. So that would be ideal. But the flick was a lot of fun to watch. It was good. You got anything coming up? Yeah, you got a pretty quick turnaround when it comes to making these films. Like you said, you were filming the day of the Oscars, which really was only like a handful of weeks ago, and this is you already edited it up. You got it out, and you're doing the stuff.
Well, yeah, it was monsoon. Every time I film, Drew, we have flooding rains every time I film. I reckon they should send me to some African drought-stricken country and make me film a movie out there, because I don't know if you could tell.
I could. I noticed.
But all the outside shots is pretty much every single one. It's raining. So yeah, we shot over 2 days because there was a lot to film with this one, as you said earlier. So yeah, we shot on a Monday and a Tuesday. Obviously, with time difference, the Oscars are like midday on Monday our time,
sure.
Which is Sunday evening your time. So yeah, so we filmed that Monday and Tuesday. We edited on the Wednesday and the Thursday. It goes to the IT man on the Friday morning, and because he's a good guy, he gets it up for me by the Friday evening. So yeah, it's a 1 week turnaround to get it up.
That's pretty sweet. That's pretty impressive. Like, I mean, that's some hard work, and that's dedication to the craft. And in between that time, you do your podcast as well.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So podcast is still there. So if you go to obviously your favorite podcast provider, and you just type in the Beernuts Productions podcast, you can see it there. Or of course, if you go to the Beernuts Productions website, there's a bunch of links on there as well for the podcast, so you can check out. It's 72 episodes. Yeah, 72 episodes we've done. So yeah, we've got which is a good effort, because most crumble and die after about 3 or 4. So we've done 72, which again, a lot to catch up to you. You're well into the hundreds now, but yeah. So the podcast is still going. We got there'll be with a bit of luck, there'll be another project coming up in the next month or two, because things people are really enjoying the work that I'm pumping out, which is great. Which means I'm getting some downloads, which means obviously I can make more hopefully entertaining products. So yeah, so obviously, as always, just encourage everyone to go to beernutsproductions.com and download the education system and any other, because that's our 25th film. So there's 24 other films that people can have a bit of a look at as well, either download and watch the trailers and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, there's tons of stuff now on beernutsproductions.com. I'm rivaling Netflix, I'm slowly coming up and, I'm going to crush them. So, that's the goal.
That's right, and I think it will happen. What's like a genre or kind of a storyline that you you haven't done yet that you would be interested in doing?
Well, it's funny you should mention that because the next film that I'm going to do is very, very different. I've had two requests from Cale Campers, who's been in quite a few of my films. In this particular film, he played the husband or the father
Okay.
of the mother in the irritating pair. So I'm sure you recognize him from quite a few of my films. I like working with Cale. He's a good guy. So he was of the opinion that I need to do a film where I play a villain.
All
And
right.
I thought that's an interesting angle. And then I've got a friend of mine. I use her house a lot when I do filming. I often use her house as a filming location, and every time she watches my film, she says to me, "Goff, when are you going to do a nice romantic film? Because you know, Beernuts Productions isn't really known for its romance. It's more abrupt kind of comedy." And she says, I want a nice romance film, you know? So
Yeah.
I thought, okay, well, what if I combine a villain with a romance and see what I can get? So the next film that comes out, hopefully, if all goes to plan, that is, will be exactly that. So it'll be an actual scripted, proper story, proper
Nice.
film. Won't be a mockumentary. The next one, it'll be an actual storyline attached to it. So so it'll be quite different indeed.
I like that. That sounds like a really good idea. I think you got the perfect look and like stature and everything for a villain. And you could have you just create that origin story. You got wronged at the retail store, and now you want to bring like doom and gloom to the world, and you say fuck love.
I could do all of those things. That absolutely could be things that I could do.
I think that would be. I think you're onto something. I look forward to seeing that because that would be a lot of fun to watch. And yeah, you definitely. I agree. You'd be a good villain.
Well, if all goes to plan and I sell some good copies of the education system, then that is the next thing that is lined to be done because the script is already written. So it's just a matter of now getting the funds together to make it, and so that all depends on the downloads, and then we'll get busy doing the pre-production and get straight into it, get it out as quickly as I can. So yeah, because I do like to get as much material out there as quickly as I can because well, it's my job and I like what I do basically. So yeah, the more people that support me, the better it is. So yeah, jump on board. I'm also on social media too. Don't know
Mhm.
if I mentioned that before, but yeah, so Beernuts Productions on all the social media channels and YouTube and all that sort of stuff as well.
So when you're writing this stuff, so you have this next script written already. Do you have like a strict writing schedule? Because I know before you've said like you're kind of like when it comes to working on the script, like you're very like by the page, by the word. That's kind of approach to you. Like, so do you have like a strict approach to writing? Do you have like I write between these times and these times, or is it I've got an idea, I'm going to make a note, and then I'm going to come back to it later?
Yeah, pretty much the second one. So I get the idea and I quickly write down as much of the body of it as I can. So the main part of the script gets written really, really quickly, really fast. And then I take a long time to sort of flesh it out. And it's only when I'm feeling in the mood, so to speak, because I mean, it's not something you can force. It's kind of like music, I think. I mean, for any people listening who have musical abilities, which I do not, but it's one of those things, if you don't feel the creative juices flowing and you feel like if you've had a crappy day, and you're feeling grumpy and stuff, then the work you're going to produce is going to be shit. So it's no point even trying. But if you're feeling good and you're feeling happy and you feel, then
Yeah.
jump on there and type out as much as you can and edit it up and do all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, so it's about being in the right sort of frame of mind to be creative. But, yeah, no, so there's definitely no strict times because I think that would be very stifling.
Yeah, for sure. I bet it would. Do you let people read your drafts before you go into production, or do you go from page? You get the team acquired. You do the casting, and then where you're making it.
Yeah. So nobody reads it.
Okay.
So it's I get no opinions because Well, mine's the only one that matters, Drew. I'm
Yeah,
just
honestly,
kidding.
probably, yeah, because you know, you could be really proud of something, and then yeah, you let somebody read it, and they're just like, well, or this, or something like that, and you're just like, oh shit, now it's ruined. So
Well, it's subjective anyway, man.
right,
So unless it's somebody who I would really respect and really want their opinion for a specific reason, I mean, there has been one of my scripts. I let a friend of mine who's gay. I let her read it because it was about two gay women. So I was like, "Can you read this and make sure I'm not misrepresenting the gay community in any way? Because I don't want to say or do the wrong thing here. So can you just read it and make sure that I'm cool with that sort of context?" And she read it and she said, "Oh yeah, there's no problem. You're totally fine." So yeah, because but that's a rare thing. So unless there was a specific reason for someone to read a script, I mean, the lawyers read it. I'm not being funny either. They've got to read it to make sure I don't get sued, to make sure I don't say anything that I shouldn't say.
yeah,
So that's the thing. But that's not. They don't provide any kind of feedback or opinion on the piece. It's just a tick saying no, you're fine. So that one doesn't really count. But yeah, that's I unless there's a specific reason for someone to read a script, I write it out and then I send it to the production team and say, this is your job, this is what you need to do, and then start the auditions and get into it. So yeah, so no, I don't really get an opinion from people, because the other thing too is, Drew, I mean, even Simon, my old production man, before he retired, he would often say to me, I read the scripts and he says, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. And then when we're shooting, it makes even less sense to me. And it's not until we're about 3/4 of the way through the edit that I start going, I get it now. He's doing this. Because obviously the way it's written looks a lot different. And then that we don't shoot it in chronological order. We shoot it all over the place. And I want certain shots and all this sort of stuff. And so he does what I ask. And then he's like, well, that's weird. Why are we doing this? But then once we edit it and we put it together, he's like, okay, well, that makes sense. I get that now. So, yeah, there is that element to it as well. So if they were to read it, it might be out of context and they might not get it like I get it because I can see it all in my head.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, man. I've never made a movie, and I'm trusting what you're saying. So,
That's very foolish of you, Drew.
yeah, I'll probably never make a movie either. I've written some scripts, some audio scripts before that we've done on the podcast, but never have pursued. I do have an idea for like what I think would be a good like play, like on a stage.
Are you willing to share said idea?
I mean, yeah, and if anybody takes it, I'll fucking sue them. No, but pretty much it'd be like it's like we have the teen parent story, but instead of like the teen parents, it's like the middle-aged parents that are like in their 40s, and they're having like another kid, and they're like really old, and then they get pregnant, and then their kids are lecturing them like, why didn't you act more responsibly? What are you gonna do? And like, reverse the roles.
No, that's nice. I like that. That would make a very funny comedy sketch. I think that would be a very, very funny thing to do. So yes, I like it.
Yeah, or you could do it where like the youngest daughter is, or the teenage daughter is pregnant, and then the mom is also pregnant, and you could do like both of their experiences at the same thing. Because I was a teen parent when I was. I'm not anymore because I'm old. But my daughter was born when I was in high school, so like I have all those experiences of people telling me, you'll never go to college, you're this and this, and just like downplaying it, you're going to have a shit life and all this kind of stuff. And then, obviously my life is fine. I could make more money. That'd be cool. But I'm definitely in a good spot. And it's like, my way of just saying fuck you to people, kind of like how you did it. And I think it would just be funny, like to turn it around and like change the perspective of, oh, there's people out there that are, in their middle age or, in their 40s, and are unexpectedly have a kid, and they don't have their shit together yet either. So it's really the same story, just a different decade, and it's just like the judgments, and all that kind of stuff.
No, I like it. It's very cool. It's a nice idea. Absolutely, it is. And you are quite right. You should write it down because you'll find it quite a cathartic experience. Because it's fun to say fuck you to those people who were jerks, and even if they never see it, because I mean, like, let's be honest, I'm pretty sure that all my high school teachers will never watch the education system. But you know what? They don't have to, because I just had fun making fun out of them. So, you know what I mean? So it was a cathartic experience for me. They don't have to watch it for me to have had my fun. I've said my piece, and that's it. You know what I mean? So if I were you, man, in on a spare weekend or whatever, I'd write it up, and I think you'd find it quite a fun experience.
Yeah, maybe this summer. I mean, I'm expecting baby number 3 in a couple of months, so we're getting ready for that, and man, my time's gonna be consumed pretty quickly.
Yes, yes, it will be. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what about beers, Drew? What have you been drinking recently?
Not that much, honestly. Just pretty much for the podcast. It's the only time I've been drinking beers. I had, yeah, just standard stuff that I'm usually been drinking. Outside of that, like when I do have, if we go out to dinner or something, I've been leaning more towards sours and like fruited IPAs lately, or IPAs with lactose in it, so it gives it a little creamier. Not as bitter as your standard IPA. So I have been leaning a little bit more towards the more tastier of beverages, like with like more like sweeter, I should say. I love IPAs that are super bitter and everything like that. But yeah, sours have kind of been my go-to lately. I've been, if it has the word citrus in it or pineapple, I'm trying it.
Okay.
So what about you? Have you been sipping any suds lately?
Always, always. Though I tell you what, I've been so in Australia, our sort of our I guess our sort of Budweiser kind of brand. So our generic kind of beer is Carlton Draft is what that's called, and I actually kind of like it. And people make fun of me for liking it, but the other night I went out with some friends after we'd finished doing the edit of the film. And I was doing pints of Carlton Draft with shots of Jameson as a chaser. So I was pints of beer and shots of whiskey. So that was going down quite nicely.
Nice. Sounds like a good time to me.
Yeah, it was cool, man. It was cool. I drank more than what I had planned to, but I had a good time, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's kind of how it always goes, especially when you're in good company. You know, you say you're going to go out for one, and you end up with one too many.
No, but it was cool, man, because I always like to, once I finish doing a film, I always like to have a nice dinner, because I mean, it's hard work, man. It really is, because
sure.
I am a one-man band. I mean, I've got to organize everything. I mean, I've got a few extra employees now with Claire who does costuming and stuff, but like even still, like I've got to organize and do everything. So it's a pretty intense sort of 12-week period leading up to, I mean, so this particular film, I started pretty much as soon as New Year's break was over for everybody, which so like the 3rd or 4th of January is when I started. And then obviously it is what it is now in April. So it came out right at the end of March. So it was literally like a 12-week pre-production. And then, as we discussed, the 1-week shoot. So there's not a lot of time for me to go out and have a good time, so to speak. So when I finish doing the edit, which is essentially the end of the project, I always like to go and have a nice dinner somewhere and sink a few tasty beverages. And yeah, like I said, the other night it was pints of Carlton Draft with shots of Jameson whiskey as the chaser. So yeah, it was quite nice.
Awesome, man. Yeah, sounds good. I've had Jameson. I can't say I've had that beer, but if I ever can see it in the States, I'll try to grab it and try some. I'm not.
I doubt you'll ever see, because like I say, man, it's our version of Budweiser. Like I say, people usually mock me because it's the poor man's beer, but I like it, man. And if I like it, I like it. What can I do? But I just like draft beer. It might be an urban myth, but I reckon beer off the tap tastes better than beer in the can or from the bottle. I just like beer off the tap.
Yeah, for sure. That's a fact. Beer off the tap is it just tastes better.
So yeah, so Carlton Draft, you walk into any pub in Australia and Carlton Draft is always on tap, always. So awesome. It's a safe go-to, you know, like, I mean, if they've got Carlton Draft and then they've got a couple of other beers up there and you've not tried them, or you're wondering, oh, I don't know, maybe not, you know that Carlton Draft is always the safe bet. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's always the good go-to if in doubt, go to Carlton Draft.
Yeah, if I ever get to Australia, which I would like to in my life, I'd like to go there and do all the touristy stuff and see it all, because it seems like a pretty cool place. That'll be my first. I'll be like, I gotta get this beer. I gotta try it.
And you'll be hopelessly disappointed and never speak to me again.
You never know. I might enjoy it. We have a beer called Pabst Blue Ribbon. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's a Wisconsin based. But it's sold across the country everywhere, and it's disgusting. It is the skunkiest beer you'll ever drink in your life, but people love it, especially the hillbillies in Wisconsin from the deep woods. They come out for their Pabst Blue Ribbon, and then they go back and I don't know, they kiss their cousins.
Well, I actually, when I was in Florida, I didn't have a lot of money back then, and so me and a guy who was living at the Backpackers as well, we went to, because you can buy beer at the gas station in Florida. So we went down to the gas station and we got a case of Bush beer.
Bush Light?
Hey?
Bush Light or just Bush?
No, just Bush. No,
okay.
You can't have light beer. So yeah, no, Bush, and it was in cans, and they were the taller cans as well. And we punched them back, and I've got to say, it probably wasn't my favorite drop, but as a 22-year-old, it did the job. So, that's all that mattered, I suppose. But so I have, I don't know if Blue Ribbon is anything close to Bush, but so I have had my experience with dodgy American beers.
Oh yeah. Bush Light. That's the drink these days that a lot of people lean towards, is they call them Bush lattes. I don't know, for whatever reason, but that's their thing. Yeah. If I'm going like non-craft beer, I usually lean towards, I guess Blue Moon. I don't know if that's craft beer or not, but that's like a more like premium draft beer. Otherwise it's Bud Light. But that stuff tastes like water.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I've had my fair share of Budweiser when I was over in America as well. Because obviously, when as a tourist, you get off the plane, it's a little bit the same as what you just said. You get off the plane, and obviously Budweiser is so famous. You go into the pub and you're like, "Hey, can I get a bottle of Bud?" And they're like, "You can if you really want one." And I'm like, "Yeah." And you drink it, and you're like, "Okay, great.
Yeah,
I've done that now.
Done it. You've had it." Yeah. People love it though. People drink it like crazy. They really do. The craft scene is definitely taking over. Even at like the big sporting, arenas and stadiums, a lot of them at least have like 2 or 3 craft beers these days, which is nice. Of course, they're more expensive, but it's a nice alternative because you can be in the setting, be in that sports setting, cheering on your team, but also drinking a good beer, not this watery piss stuff.
You are quite right. There's a lot of pubs now. Even my favorite pub, which is an Irish tavern, which isn't far from where I live, even they now on tap will have more local craft beers on tap, which I think is a great thing for the exact same reason as what you said. So yeah, craft beers are a real thing, and they're becoming increasingly popular. So, which is a good thing, because people are out there doing something a bit different, trying to, compete with the big boys, which I support because I do exactly the same thing with my business. So, it's good to support the little guy and have some nice. And plus, most of the time, it's better. Like the craft beers are usually a lot nicer to drink because more time and care has been put into making it. So, for the most part, it's usually better stuff. And I'd like to think the same with like independent entertainment, not just obviously my stuff, but a lot of independent entertainment out there is exactly the same, man. It's a lot better because there's been no corporate suited dickhead put his hands in there and ruin everything. It's what the artist intended it to be, and nobody knows the work better than the person who wrote the script or wrote the music or drew the painting. You know what I mean? So they know how it should be done more than anybody else. So yeah, independent is always better, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say, always support the independent filmmakers, all the independent artists, even like your local artists and everything like that, because they're the people that are in it for the love of it. And I'm not saying like, there's a lot of big time movies that people are in it for the love of making film, for the love of telling stories, for the love of character development. But like you said, there's always like some millionaire's hand is in that pocket, in which case like you are missing an aspect of it that you miss when compared to an independent film. So I think the stuff you put out is great, and I'm always going to support it. I always enjoy it. Let's tell the folks one more time how they can watch the latest film and where they can get all the other stuff, plus your podcast and all the other things you got going on.
Absolutely. So, yeah, beernutsproductions.com. So drink a beer and eat some nuts and watch a production. So, yeah, beernutsproductions.com is where you can find everything. So we've got the 25 films up there, some audio downloads, some podcasts, so all kinds of stuff. And, of course, all over social media. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, even LinkedIn, and, of course, YouTube as well. So just type in Beernuts Productions and I will come up. So, hit a follow and a like and all that sort of good stuff and a subscribe, and then you'll be able to keep up to date with all the films and all the stuff that's coming out. So yeah, absolutely support, and I do appreciate your support, Drew, obviously, and obviously everyone that listens that hits up the website. I really genuinely appreciate their support as well.
Yeah, we always appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate you letting me watch your stuff, and hopefully, we're getting you one step closer to becoming that multi-billionaire that you deserve to be.
And then I can afford to buy Anne Hathaway and force her to sit next to you at the Oscars.
Yes. Sounds good. Well, thanks so much, Scott, for coming on.
Absolutely, Drew. Anytime. Cheers, buddy.
Pew, pew! Audio. Goodbye, everyone.